Just testing out the audio. See you guys at 7. I'm gonna take the meeting off mute here so we can get started. We probably see my little face up here. Just put that up there. All right, thanks everybody for coming. We're gonna go ahead and get started. We have a few speakers and some updates and some information to give to you. So let's just go ahead and get into it. First off, I want to thank Ball State Cap Indie Center here. They've been an amazing host for a while now. So very happy that they let us keep coming back. We have a few guest speakers and we've got a lot of reports happening today. If you come up to speak, can you please make sure you're using the microphone, and hopefully it's going to help people that are coming in on YouTube be able to hear us. I thought I had another thing on here. So we are streaming on YouTube. I think when I looked just a second ago, we've got like 3 people watching. So when you do come up to speak, I would appreciate you be back here. If we have somebody in the audience speaking, I do have a microphone that I'm going to hang on to so that I can put you on it, and then maybe the laptop will kind of pick you up. We're kind of low tech high tech because Ball State has the stuff, but like we're kind of trying this out for the first time. So we're gonna jump right on into the guest speakers. First up, we have Stacy Riojas. And I'm sorry, Roman. So they're gonna come up, and if you've got any questions about anything happening, they're happy to answer.
I'm Stacy Riojas. I met most of you before. I did ask my partner Roman to come by. This is Roman Williams Irvin. He's my partner. He does the same job as I do. We've been working together 15 years. Pretty good guy. But I just wanted everybody to see, you know, I've stuck with him. I'm just going to get into things real quick. We don't have a whole lot to update. Violent crime in your specific neighborhood is actually down 52% in the past month. So that's pretty good. Also, your property crimes are down 24%. Another win, I think. I did have some questions about the incident that happened at New York and Arsenal, 1400 East New York. That was a homicide. It was an isolated incident, and it seems like it was a drug deal gone bad. So some people were trying to buy or sell drugs, and some violence occurred. That they do have suspects in it. That's about all the information I can give at this time. Some events that we have coming up are blood drive is tomorrow. We have the Breanne Leath Memorial Blood Drive. That's in honor of Breanne Leath, who was killed in the line of duty in 2020. If you are inclined to give blood, come on out and donate. It's at 201 North Shadeland from 12 to 6 tomorrow. Also, we are having coffee with a cop at Needhammer. I don't even know if I'm saying that right. If I'm not, correct me. 2104 East Washington, I believe, on May 1st from 3 to 4 in the afternoon. So come on by for that. Our next task force meeting is May 8th at 201 North Shadeland from 6 to 7 p.m. The topic at that task force meeting will be, we'll have representatives from the Mediation Center, the Conflict Resolution Center, coming to talk about what they can do for you all. If you have a conflict when you're like, oh, I don't want to call the police about this, but it is a conflict or quality of life issue for you, like your neighbor's fence is a couple inches on your side or whatever, they can actually sit down with you and the neighbor and mediate for you free of charge. So that might be something you want to get some information on. Also, last thing I have is our community day is July 10th from 11 to 2 at Brookside Park. If you or your organization wants to be a part of that, feel free to email me or call me. But that's all we have. Does anybody have questions or concerns? I'm sure somebody's got questions. Yeah. That's good to hear. We'd like to hear that.
Incident that happened, drug deal related to anyone associated with the house?
I cannot provide that information. Give me the address.
Give us the address.
And what do we have going on there? Are they renters or owners or?
Do you ever see any guns or anything coming in and out of the house?
So if you see this stuff, I don't know if you call 911. Okay. Have you contacted Crime Stoppers? Okay. Crimetips.org or 262-TIPS, 317-262-TIPS are our preferred methods for notifying us of that kind of activity, unless something is actively going on where it would be a 911 call. If you have something like that going on, if you think it's related to violence, Crime Stoppers. If you have some other quality of life issue, my partner and I can probably handle it, but the violent crime and the drug dealing, that is not our purview. But Crime Stoppers will forward that on to the detectives that investigate that. Or you can email me with it and I'll forward it. I do. It's,
I'll give you a card.
well, if anybody else wants to write it down, it's STACY dot RIOJAS@indy.gov. A secondary email, because we're having some spam issues and not getting emails that we should be getting, is IMPD_EastCRU@indy.gov. And if you email that one, it goes to Roman, myself, and then my sergeant.
So that particular house,
Like a short-term rental. We have some nuisance abatement people that can maybe look into that, but I'll forward that information on. You think it's a weekly, like a short-term rental?
and it's a rooming house, or is it the whole house being rented? Okay,
Like right this track. Is that house, there are bridges, the alleyway. It's from home. That's what I keep on it for.
And has that been reported to the health department?
I've seen them out there.
Is there anybody from the health department here? No, okay,
I'm messaging them right now.
awesome. Thanks, Cliff.
well, they're,
Monday,
Monday, Tuesday.
Tuesday.
We'll go out there Tuesday and we'll take a look, and so we can size it up ourselves and then figure out what resources that we can direct towards that.
Get the gym calling and you see activities and seal up and black and stuff, that's not illegal.
Right.
And people look suspicious, which is not illegal, what types of things should we be looking for?
So I like to say a good rule of thumb is if it doesn't look or feel right, then it's probably not right. So, right, right. But what I'm saying is, I'm a police officer, but I'm not always wearing my uniform, right? But if I walk in and out of my house and I have a gun, doesn't necessarily mean that I'm involved in criminal activity. My neighbors are used to seeing that and they know me, and it doesn't feel like something's going on wrong there. If you see somebody grabbing a duffel bag full of guns and they come screaming up the street and they run into the house, maybe that doesn't look right, right? Maybe they just were involved in some criminal activity 2 blocks down the road that we're trying to investigate, and they came back to that house. And your phone call might lead us to the suspect because something just didn't look right. So see where the difference is there? I'm just saying, if it doesn't to you look or feel right, don't be afraid to call. Let us come out and investigate it. If we come out there and nothing to it, then there's nothing to it.
How much is it too much? That we did you and another one was going to address it.
If it's related to guns and gun violence, we want it addressed. That's a main priority of our department right now. So if it's related to guns and gun violence, we want to know about it. Yesterday, I had somebody send me video of guys carrying guns, which would normally, we can't do anything about it. But then they said, we're headed to settle a score. Well, that changes things. If somebody says is carrying guns and they say that also, you just have to take like a totality of the circumstances to make that determination. And just because you call doesn't mean anybody's going to jail. It doesn't mean anything will happen. It just means we'll come investigate it.
Well, it puts it on our radar, right? The squeaky wheel gets the grease. So
It's just when your guys is not against.
understand your police department's here to take calls for service. That's what we get paid to do. So, like anybody, we may be annoyed by the amount of calls, but that's what we get paid to do. So let us be annoyed with it. And if it helps us save a life or put your neighborhood at ease, we're fine with it. It is what it is.
Is there any legal remedy by that house, common nuisance. And filing against the landlord and taking our petitions against it.
There has to be certain steps taken in order to kind of call it a common nuisance. Just a bunch of calls there isn't necessarily it. So there would have to be a little bit more than people calling the police. Now, if somebody's serving a search warrant and they find a bunch of people in there using drugs and this person, has shown a pattern of letting people use drugs or deal drugs or whatever, then we can work up to that. But that's something, our detectives have to kind of make a determination on.
This house has like a history of police presence there, like your stabbings, dog attacks, like there is a lot of like documented problems over a span of like at least 5 years, probably more.
And it sounds like you have different players coming in all the time, so that creates another issue too. But maybe if we send it up to our nuisance abatement, they can take it to maybe look at the owners of the property, not just the occupants who are doing the wrong thing.
Thanks. Thank you. Thank you for the information too.
Please, if you have a quality of life issue, email us. Roman and I love solving problems for people. If you have a problem in your neighborhood, we want to come solve it. Even if it seems minor or whatever, email us. If we can't solve it, we'll try to forward it to somebody who can, or tell you, sorry, there's nothing we can do. We'll be honest with you.
Right, we'll be 100% honest. We can't fix it, then we'll tell you that. But we will come out and try to address it. We know about it.
All right, have a good night. Thanks. I hope I didn't disconnect.
Everybody's tripping on it. Okay. Next up, we have Taylor Hughes, Indianapolis Chamber of Commerce. He did have some slides, so I apologize with the whole setup. We might not be able to see them, but
Good. I'll just use these notes. Good evening, everybody. Taylor Hughes. I get the immense pleasure of working with your neighbor, Tony Neely, seated right over there. And had a couple of things to talk about tonight. Can give you the quick update and then basically just answer questions. But the 3 topics that I was asked to kind of bring thoughts on were Economic Enhancement District, which I'm sure y'all have heard something about in the last few months, low barrier shelter, and then Rethink 6570 interstate projects. So the very quick rundown on Economic Enhancement District. And if I'm repeating anything that anyone has come here and spoken about before, just do some kind of like a hand signal and I'll fast forward some of these comments. But Indianapolis was the largest city in the country without a mechanism to dedicate services or dedicate funds for safety, cleanliness, beautification, vitality services, specifically in the core of our downtown, in planning terms, the Central Business District, through a mechanism that looks like an HOA. So most cities for their downtowns have a way for property owners, usually commercial, sometimes residential, to pay into an HOA-like structure to invest in those things. Indianapolis was literally the largest city in the country without it until last year when the state legislature enabled it in state code, and then subsequently near the end of the year in 2023, the Indianapolis City County Council put it into effect in November of last year. There were some debates at the State House, as there sometimes are, about the structure there, what it should look like, who should be included. There were some changes made, but the EED, as it's sort of acronymized, is going to likely be put into place by the council this summer. So what does that mean? What does it look like? What were the changes involved? The EED was originally going to be the footprint of the mile square, which during the process of working on this issue, I learned is a lie. It is 1.03 miles. It is not 1 mile square. That's the joke I prepared for tonight. Thank you all for it. So we no longer are using the map of the mile square. The state legislature allowed in code that the footprint could be expanded to as much as a 2 mile square, so a 2 mile leg of a square in any direction. That essentially encompasses something more like what many of us think about as downtown proper. So the interstates to the river, more or less. So what would be allowed is that larger map and all residential properties, apartments, single-family townhomes, condos are not allowed to be a part of the payers into that district. So it's 100% commercial property, and the permitted uses cover things like homelessness services, safety, like off-duty patrols of IMPD, cleanliness services for those who spend time downtown. You've seen the green shirts, folks walking around with the trash pickers. Those are funded by or will be funded by an economic enhancement district. So, and the last piece of that, homelessness services, there are currently funds in the budget allowed for a couple of homelessness navigators dedicated to downtown. These are folks that go around and meet folks who are experiencing homelessness, direct them to resources, housing, other things like that, as well as funds for the operations of a low barrier shelter. So before I segue, and I was a philosophy major, so I can go on with the rest, with the best of them. Any questions on economic enhancement district before I talk at all about low barrier? And my beautiful slides will be shared with Jen to be emailed out to you guys later. So feel free to ask me questions in follow-up. Low barrier shelter. So the chamber takes a trip to a different city every year with local leaders to study that city's superpowers and things that we should implement here in Indianapolis. We call it the Leadership Exchange Trip. In 2019, we went to San Antonio and observed a facility that they have there known as Haven for Hope. It's a low barrier shelter that does a couple of things really well. It houses families that are experiencing homelessness. So they have facilities within this structure to allow a family to stay together, not be split up in a co-ed shelter. They are open 24/7. If you are not sober, you can still get services from this facility. And they are faith agnostic. They don't have any kind of faith or criteria for you to receive services there. That was really interesting to the delegation we took to San Antonio, because that is something that doesn't be in Indianapolis. And for the homelessness community, one of the things that we hear a lot is especially a couple of those things. One is the 24-hour thing. We don't currently have shelter space where folks can come and obtain services at any hour of the day. That's important because crises don't necessarily follow any of our work schedule or would happen just during the week. Also, from the family perspective, one of the most in-demand shelter beds in the city is for families with a single parent father. So we don't currently have a lot of shelters that can accommodate that and that family situation, and that leaves people in an uncomfortable situation. So one of the other things that the low barrier shelter concept was interesting for is creating a one-stop shop sort of entry point to the Indianapolis homelessness system. So if I need a bed for a night, if I need a place to stay for 3 months before I get into a permanent unit, or if I'm ready to go into a permanent unit, where should I be going to get triaged into that system? It's not always clear. You all are uniquely probably aware of Horizon House, excuse me, right across the street, which is probably the best example of that for the city. Not every neighborhood has that asset in their neighborhood, and not every neighborhood is as aware of that as a place to access services. So a low barrier shelter would serve all those functions 24/7, a place where families could stay together and obtain services for the night, and a one-stop shop for entry into the homelessness system. The city of Indianapolis is currently putting together the use plan for what that facility would look like. Many of you probably know that they've acquired land just south of Washington Street here. It's close to Second Helpings and close to Horizon House that they plan to use as a low barrier shelter. Much of the construction of that facility will be funded by local dollars through the American Rescue Plan budget that was from COVID relief dollars, and then about $20 million of state funding that comes through a grant program. So I'm starting to see a little bit of glazing over. I will stop there. That's kind of the summary of sort of how that is intended to work, with a lot of caveats on. It's very much in process. They're building out the plan for how this will work every day. But those are some of the policy goals as well.
What's gonna be kind of
So the decision-making process is in city departments, with a little caveat there. The chamber has advocated on this issue since 2019 because we believe it's a really important facility for Indianapolis to have. That means it's not a good idea to, at this point, just say, okay, you know, like, we'll see what happens. So we're very invested in making sure that it's a high quality facility that obviously serves the people who need those resources well in Indianapolis, but also one that is a good neighbor, right? So we are trying to remain close to that process as the city is putting these things together. We're also advocating with the state agency who's going to hopefully provide about 2/3 of the capital construction dollars for that. So the actual plan development is happening within the city, but we're continuing to stay close.
As long as you're still paying attention to it. I had sent a couple comments in, but I don't really know where they.
Yeah.
And the comments that I had given was, it didn't seem like they're in the early descriptions of what they were doing was anything to account for open space, outdoor open space for the people using the facility. Because it's very industrial right there. There's like not a lot of sidewalks and things like that. So having a safe place. And then the linkages from getting from that site back to like Washington Street or across into downtown, like needs to be a focus for them to actually be able to get further than just Verizon House to whatever services they need, probably. It's a nice opportunity site, but there's a lot of limitations for like actually giving them what they need at that site.
I don't have answers to that, but that is helpful, and I will incorporate that into what we're talking to the city about. What's that? It's down Shelby Street, and I'm trying to remember the cross street. It's basically 2 blocks south of Horizon House. Georgia Street, that's correct. Georgia and Shelby. Yeah. I think they acquired something like 3 parcels right at that intersection.
No, I think Tim can maybe see if he's heard anything when he gets up there. I don't think anybody's talking.
As far as drugs, does that mean you can be on drugs and still right there?
It does. It means there's not a sobriety requirement. There are facility design principles that you would have to put in place to make sure that, for instance, a family looking to stay together and access services for the night is in a safe place, and so is an individual that may or may not be sober.
So it works that every business that surrounds that is actively fighting this market. And we're all trying to White House up here. That is filled with drugs, and now we're about to build a homeless shelter right here that is gonna be filled with drug addicts. Why would you go to the Horizon House and be like, you gotta be sober when you can just go to this house and be on drugs?
What they've found with facilities like this in other cities around the country is it's the best place to get an individual who is in a substance abuse situation, attached to resources and on a better path, as opposed to, for instance, being in one of the houses that you know has been talked about earlier tonight.
It's not. That is. It's in an industrial area. The people who are already doing these drugs are already in our neighborhoods.
They're right there across the street.
Yes, and it's gonna get us, it's gonna. That are rehab facilities, there is a facility, there are facility. There are facility right behind the parties as you go back that way. There are multiple facilities. For support.
I'm talking about low barriers.
Yes, but what I'm saying is. With low barrier. People have access to doctors, they have access to social workers, they have a lot of their needs met. Where they don't need to come around to our neighborhood.
Well, if they're needs met, they can all be drug addicts either. You're not doing my point here.
I think we're at a little bit of an impact.
Can I just say, where we have had more than our share of these kinds of things in our neighborhood?
Yeah.
So maybe, it sounds like a great idea, but I'm not sure this is the place.
Get it over, it's for me. Why is it?
I appreciate it. What I'll do, and I am serious about that, is, this is helpful to us as we talk to the city about their plans to be able to say, here's what we've heard from neighbors and their perspectives on the plans of the project. We've met with the property owners around there. Not because we have control over the project, but because we're interested in what people think about, some of the plans. I also attended a town hall that Sen sponsored down here at the CCS a few months ago. Mr. Berry was there, as were a lot of neighbors that spoke in favor of the plan. So that was, it's one of those things that there's a lot of different thoughts about the best way to do this. And the only thing we can do is try to incorporate as many of those perspectives as we can.
If the city or whoever wants to have a meeting, we can make sure that we get it out to everybody. So
Yep.
we can all come and kind of like, that can be a focused conversation.
Happy to help arrange that.
Did you have something else?
So last thing, I just wanted to touch on Rethink 6570. You guys may have heard some about this, but the North Split project obviously had a significant impact on the infrastructure you all interact with every day. It also started a conversation more broadly in Indianapolis about our legacy infrastructure, particularly our interstates, which are near the end of their useful lives. So within the next 10 to 15 years, most of the interstates downtown are going to need to be rebuilt. That's not surface repatching. That's a total take down to the ground and build back up, as with the North Split. We are actively working on helping to surface what are the realistic solutions and other legs around the Indianapolis area. So in the downtown area, we have about 8 miles of elevated highway that occupy about 365 acres of downtown. A lot of other cities that are our peers around the country are also rebuilding their interstates and finding ways to redevelop that land, use it more efficiently. And instead of dedicating it completely to interstate infrastructure, say, how can we build affordable housing there? How can we build ground floor retail, neighborhood style development that's a lot more amenable to a pedestrian and a neighborhood activity to walk around and interact with? So lots of pieces to that. It's a really big project. It's probably going to cost something like $4 billion all told over the next 15 years to rebuild our interstates. We got a $2 million grant from the feds to study basically Washington Street down to where the 65 and 70 split near the Eli Lilly campus, the already recessed portion of the interstate, to basically say, what are the alternatives we can do in that part of our infrastructure around downtown? Lessons can we learn about that to apply to other legs of the interstate? So would love to engage you all as a neighborhood and as individuals in that conversation. And happy to do that either tonight or some other time. But thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Taylor. The next two speakers couldn't actually attend, but they did send some information for me to share with everyone. So these are going to go fairly quickly. First is, I'm not going to try to pronounce his last name, but Andrew with Andre Carson's office. He let me know that there was a congressional art competition happening. You may have seen this in one of the newsletters that went out. They're accepting submissions through April 26th. And then there's a QR code there if you have an interest and you want to snap that. But like I said, it wasn't a newsletter recently. And then 2024 Congressional App Challenge. So this is for high school students. Again, details announced May 1st. So they haven't actually put out information about this yet. But if you have a high schooler or somebody who's into that kind of thing, there's your information. Jesse Brown, our counselor, also could not attend tonight, but he wanted me to mention that he is currently working on an affordable housing working group. They're looking at things like homelessness, evictions, and just housing stock production, just having enough housing for people. He said that if anybody has any thoughts or that's an area you're really interested in, please email him. He is happy to work with anybody who's interested in knowing more about it or sharing their own thoughts on it. He also mentioned that he is one of the counselors trying to lead an Indianapolis Vision Zero policy for the city. City has a policy. They haven't really stuck to it very much. Yeah. So he's one of the counselors that's trying to do a bit more with this. And so if anybody has any interest in being part of that, please reach out to him again. Oh, I work in a field where that's like a thing. So like, I don't even think about it. So Vision Zero is the concept that every life is, sorry, I'm saying this wrong. Vision Zero is the concept that in traffic in particular, traffic deaths, traffic injuries, no number of injuries or deaths should be acceptable. The only acceptable number should be 0. And people tend to talk about it in the news media and things like that as accidents. And in the fields that I work in, we try to make sure that we call them crashes or incidents, because accidents implies that there was nothing that could have been done, and maybe it only happens once and somebody slipped up. And maybe that is the case, but when that happens, people who have the ability to make change should be taking that seriously and trying to figure out what they can do to prevent it from happening ever again. So the idea is there's a lot of infrastructure things that you can do. Just trying to tell people to drive better is like, doesn't really have a lot of effect on the outcomes, but you can definitely build our environments so that especially vulnerable road users, when you hear somebody say vulnerable road users, it's people on foot and on bikes and who aren't in a car that is protecting them with airbags. So, but Vision Zero does also include people in cars that are in crashes as well. So Vision Zero is the concept that we should be doing more to make sure that if you look at the paper, sorry, this is a field I'm in. If you look at the paper, you constantly see information about people dying from gun violence and things like that. People who die in traffic crashes really don't get much attention put on them. And you'd be surprised how many people are actually dying and being seriously injured a year in traffic incidents and crashes that just don't get the press. Yeah, Cliff's got a personal mission for it as well. So.
After this, I won't monopolize anything.
Yeah.
I've got stickers with QR codes.
Yeah. So if you're interested, reach out to Jesse. He's working on something. If you have any other questions afterwards, let me know. Happy to talk more about it. Yeah. Okay. And then the final one, I don't think Jacob's here tonight, or at least I didn't see him. Is he? Okay. So I always put a slide in there. He's our mayor's neighborhood advocate. He always has some good updates, but we will move on. So one of the big things we need to do tonight, per our bylaws, is make sure we have the officer elections. Tonight, we have both elections for the association and for the foundation. The association has 4 officers: president, vice president, treasurer, and secretary. These are all one-year terms. So every year in April, we do an election for anybody who's new. A person who is nominated for those spots must be on the association board. The association board is open to anyone who lives in the neighborhood or has a business in the neighborhood. It meets on the off months of these meetings. Anybody can be on it. There's no limit to the number of people who can join the association board. The foundation has 2-year terms, and they have 2 elected positions open, and any number of appointed positions by the association can also join the foundation. But tonight we have 2 elected positions that we need to run through. So we'll start with the association. Hello, I'm your president. Amanda Wade over here is our vice president. Our treasurer is BW. He's back here somewhere. There he is. And our secretary is Randy. He's over there. So we have not heard that anyone else is interested. I've mentioned it at the last couple of meetings. If anybody wants to throw their name in the hat who's on the association board tonight, you're welcome to do so. We can take nominations from the floor. Otherwise, we'll just need to have some sort of like motion and second, and we need people to say their names so we can put it in the notes, and then we'll just vote. So if anybody wants to throw their name in as a nomination who's on the association board, or nominate somebody else, this is your time to do it. Okay, well, in that case, I guess. All right, so we got Renee made a motion, Cliff made a second. All in favor, everybody gets to vote. So I'll call yeses and I'll call no's. So all in favor for yeses?
Yes.
Okay, anybody knows? Okay, passes unanimously. Surprise, surprise. Okay, so now we're on to the foundation. Today we have Renee O'Sullivan. She's the current president of the foundation, and we have Megan May. She's the current vice president of the foundation. So again, are there any rules about floor nominations? Okay, so, oh, anybody can, so if anybody wants to do that, this is the time to do it. Otherwise, we need, again, a motion in a second for the people who have names currently. I put off to the side, those are the other current members on the foundation, so like, don't shout any of them because they already have spots on the foundation board.
I'll motion to,
Reelect.
Reelect, thank you.
Renee and Megan. So we've got a motion from Amanda. Second from Tony. All in favor, yeses?
Yes.
Any noes? All right, passes unanimously. Thank you very much. We're good for another year. Well, you might have other people we have to elect next year, though.
So if anybody's ever interested in any of these, say you know, during the year, you actually voice that, so we can actually.
Yeah.
Get you ready for it, right? So, cause like, when I got the treasure spot, they hand me a pile of paper. I had to figure it out. Right? So-
Don't scare them off, Brian. Yeah, and I'll mention at the end again, but I mentioned the association board. This is basically just, we have these all neighborhood meetings every other month throughout the year. On the other months, it's a group of people, smaller group of people who want to stay more involved and maybe make quicker decisions on things that we can't wait for a 2-month meeting on. Anybody's welcome to join. Those are on Zoom meetings, so you don't even have to be in person for the association board meetings. Reach out if you want to be on that association board. We're going to buzz through some neighborhood reports. I'm going to start out with the treasurer's report. This is per our bylaws. We're supposed to give everybody an update of like how we do our finances. So and at the April meeting. So you might not see this at every meeting, but so over the last year, 2023, we took in $378 in primarily dues. There's a QR code at the end of the meeting that you'll see if you feel like you haven't donated in a while and you want to. Dues are voluntary, but we've taken in about $378 in the last year in that. In the last year in expenses, we do pay for a Zoom account. That's what we're using to Zoom to stream to YouTube right now. That's about $150 a year. We paid for a Sign Up Genius subscription for about $270 for the year. That was for organizing volunteers, primarily for the wine and cheese event. We might be able to use it for other things. And then we did not get any reimbursements in 2023 for cleanup supplies. Sometimes we buy like pizza on cleanup days, things like that. So those are things that the neighborhood also sometimes funds. So that might be things we pay for in 2024. And then the remaining balance in the association account is about $5,000, just over $5,000. So this is the money. The association, for anybody who's not familiar, is a 501c4. Which means that we have a little bit different restrictions on how we spend our money and how we collect our money than the foundation does. They are a 501c3. So the association does tend to have less money than the foundation just because it's, you know, easier for people to donate to the foundation, get tax write-offs, things like that. So what we use the foundation or what we use the association money for is like cleanup supplies on cleanup days, like I said, reimbursing pizza, stuff like that with the Zoom account. So this is just an example. We don't actually spend money that much out of the association.
Well, understand. Foundation over here.
Okay, yeah. So foundation's become very active in the last couple of years. It's super exciting. And then here's the QR code. If you do want to donate to the association, we ask for voluntary dues of $20 per household per year. You can use the QR code, do it on your phone. We can accept cash or check. If you go to the website, indyholycross.org/resources, you could do it there as well. So did my little monthly obligation. And now it's time for the foundation report. What? There you go. It'll be up at the end of the meeting again too, if anybody misses it. I missed the question.
That'll be part of another report later.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about it here in a few minutes. So now we're gonna do a foundation report. Renee O'Sullivan.
All right, speaking of foundation. Our balance total right now is almost $13,000. We do have a couple deposits we need to make. Some of it's wine and cheese money from last year's wine and cheese. The park sculpture fabrication installation is paid in full, which is why this amount is lower than you might have heard last quarter. Of that amount, just over 8,000 is restricted for projects like signal box maintenance, the gateway sign when the construction's done for the two-way conversion, and then when we find out from the parks what the park sculpture maintenance fee is. Some things we're working on right now. We are working on a redesign of the pole sign, something that's more color fast, a little bit more durable. So look for some information on that coming soon. We're working on that. We do have house signs available for purchase. There's a QR code over here if you want to snap that and make a payment for a sign. Kroger Community Awards. We got an email 2 days ago. We now have 9 households and we made $14.41 this quarter. That's twice what we made last quarter. We're getting there. If you're willing to support the neighborhood through, if you've got a Kroger card, there's a QR code over there about what you can do to sign up for that. So a portion of your Kroger purchases, just go to the Neighborhood Foundation and we can use that for projects. Like I said, some of these bigger projects is what the foundation works on, kind of larger scale projects as opposed to the supplies for cleanups. And then the last item is we have a project/fund request form that we are designing right now. It's going to be available on the neighborhood website, probably by the end of the month. What will happen is if you have an idea for a project you think the neighborhood could work on and the foundation could maybe spearhead, or if you would like funds for something to do in the neighborhood, a project of some kind, you'll be able to use that form to request it. And then the foundation board will look at those items the following meeting. We meet every other month. So let's say something was put in at the end of this month, it would be reviewed and voted on by the foundation board at our end of May meeting. So if that makes sense. That's what I've got. I think I only have one slide, right? Yeah. Any questions? Thank you. Yeah. Oh, yes. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Amanda. One thing I wanted to say on behalf of all of our neighbors that come up here and speak is I know some things move more slowly than people wish they would move. I just want to remind everybody that we are all volunteers. We all have full-time jobs. We all have families. Some of these things even move more slowly than we wish they moved, but we just appreciate your patience. If there's something that you think you could help with to help move it more quickly, please let us know. We could always use more help. You don't necessarily have to be officially in one of the boards. You could just be on a project of some kind to help with that project. So thank you, everybody. I appreciate that.
Thank you, Renee. Now we have Megan May. She's going to tell us some updates about the upcoming Wine and Cheese Festival.
Fun stuff, guys. All right.
Fun stuff. So as you can see, July 20th, from 4 to 9 p.m. It will be on the Esplanade on Sturm. Hopefully everybody knows where that is. So this year, we're going to be a little earlier. Got kind of dark towards the end, so we're rocking it back an hour. We're going to have 2 bands, and in between the bands playing, we're also going to have Sinclair doing DJing and spinning and stuff. We're moving towards using tickets for the wine and the cheese platters, and then like all the other beverages that we're selling. So like food trucks and artisan vendors, they'll still take cards, but we're going to sell tickets to kind of simplify things the day of. And then we're also introducing some elevated experiences that are geared towards adults. So this is family friendly. So there's a bounce house usually. We've had face painting, other kids activities. And we thought this year we would add some more stuff for adults to do. So there's going to be a grilled cheese throwdown. So you buy a pass for that. You get to sample different grilled cheeses and then vote for the winner. And then that winner will go on and be in the World Food Championships, which is actually being held in Indianapolis this year. So that's something cool to do. And then we're going to have, and I never say this word right, so just don't mock me, sommelier, that word, led experience where Jan from Bluebeard will lead people through trying different wines that are going to be paired with flavor profiles. So like something sweet, something sour, something bitter, and so on. So those will also have a pass ahead of time. So you might be asking, how can I support this? I want to go. Other than saving the date, you can buy tickets and passes ahead of time. There's this QR code that will take you to the site where they're being sold. And so for the passes, there's 30 for the grilled cheese that are for sale. And then no, 90 for the grilled cheese that are for sale, and then 50, around 50 for the Somme. But the big thing that I want you guys to know about is, we're doing the ticket packs, and so there will be 10 tickets in a pack. Each ticket is worth $3. And so we've got kind of like really cheesy names for our ticket packs. So right now it's a good deal. It's $20, and that's until May 24th, and that's really geared towards our neighborhood. So for people here to get the tickets at a discounted price, and then it'll go up to brilliant savings on the 25th through the end of June. And then July 1st, it goes up to 30. We'll cut off online ticket sales a couple weeks ahead of time, and then you can buy them on site. But it's good to buy early, and I'm pretty sure that our elevated experiences are going to sell out ahead of time. So definitely make sure that you guys get in on that. And then I also included the prices so people know like what you can get with the tickets. So we'll have 2-ounce samples. You can make samples. You can buy a glass of wine. You can buy a bottle this year so that you can like bring your chairs and a blanket and hang out with your friends. So just lots of cool stuff. And then this information is going to be posted to the website too. And then the other 2 ways that you can help is sponsorship. We introduced a new level this year we're calling the Vineyard Sponsor. It's $250, and that'll get you 4 tickets, a group thank you, and then a Holy Cross t-shirt. And you have to be within a mile of Holy Cross to even qualify for this. And then we have the Moscato Sponsor, which is $100. We had that something similar last year. And you'll get a Holy Cross t-shirt with that one too, as well as some recognition. And then also this, as Renee said,